secrets. Today, we return with the story of Luna and Alan. If you want to understand how it all began, watch the channel's 2 previous videos. In the last episode, we saw the couple fleeing the Mendes family's henchmen. In this third part, the chase intensifies. The family doesn't forgive anyone who steals their secrets. And Luna and Alan know that a single mistake could cost them their lives. As they work together side by side every day, the tension between them grows. But it's not just fear. Will we see the couple grow closer and finally be together amidst the danger? Or will the pressure from the Mendes family tear them apart forever? Follow this adventure to the end. Escape in the shadows. The hooded men advanced with the precision of trained predators. Alan felt his blood run cold, but Luna was faster. She grabbed his hand with surprising force and pulled him into a side alley too narrow for 2 men to pass aside. "Run!" she shouted, her feet tapping on the uneven pavement with a familiarity that surprised Alan. They raced through a maze of medieval alleyways, Luna turning at impossible angles, past stone arches and hidden staircases. Alan could barely keep up with her, his lungs burning. Behind them, the footsteps of the pursuers echoed, relentlessly. "How do you know these paths?" panted Alan. "I lived here," Luna replied without slowing down, "before everything falls apart." She pulled him to an old wooden door, almost invisible on the wall. It hit 3 times, a specific pattern. The door opened immediately, revealing an elderly man with scars on his face. "Luna," he said simply, making room. They entered, and the man locked the door behind them. Outside, the footsteps rushed past, confused, losing track. Luna leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. Alan looked around. It was a small studio, full of unfinished canvases, brushes, and the strong smell of oil paint. "Who were those men?" asked Alan, when he finally caught his breath. "Private security," Luna said, still panting. "Ricardo has a team, discreet mercenaries. He wasn't going to let it go." The elderly man locked several locks. "You've brought trouble, girl." "I know, Mateo," Luna said, genuine embarrassment in her voice. "Sorry, but we needed a safe place." Mateo sighed, but his gaze was gentle. "It always needs it. Since I was little, I always attracted storms." Alan noticed something in the way the old man spoke. "Have you known each other for a long time?" "Mateo was my teacher," Luna explained, "when I was still someone in the art world. He taught me everything about painting, about surviving in this cruel world." Mateo served water to both of them. What now? What did they do to have the Mendes family on their trail? Luna and Alan exchanged glances. "I'm back," Luna said simply, and they didn't like it. The temporary refuge. Mateo let them stay in the small warehouse at the back of the studio, among old canvases and boxes of art supplies. It was cramped, cold, but safe. Night fell completely, and the city outside became a sea of lights and shadows. Alan sat down in a wooden box, still processing everything. "They sent assassins after us, Luna. This is no longer just about social revenge. This is dangerous." "I know," Luna said, sitting on the floor with her back against the wall. "Ricardo is not a man to leave loose ends. If he thinks I can expose his business, he will do everything to silence me. And now you're involved too." "Why didn't you leave Barcelona?" asked Alan. "Why did you stay in the city where they are?" Luna stared at him, her dark eyes reflecting the dim light of a naked lamp. "Because running away would mean admitting defeat. And I'm not one to run away, Alan. I never was. I wanted them to see me, to be afraid that I would come back to destroy them. But I underestimated the speed of their reaction. What now? Now we need to really disappear, Luna said, but not far away. We need to stay close enough to investigate, to gather evidence. And then, when we have enough ammunition, we destroy the Mendes Empire. Alan pondered this. The idea was insane, dangerous, probably suicidal. But something about him, something he had awakened since he had met Luna, wanted to fight. He wanted to see Clara and Ricardo pay, and he wanted to be by this enigmatic woman who had transformed his life in a matter of days. "Okay," he said finally. "Let's do it. Together." Luna smiled, a genuine smile for the first time. Together.
A shell company. 3 days later, in a discreet shined office in the Gracia neighborhood, Alan and Luna created their facade. With Mateo's help and some contacts Luna had cultivated over the years, they registered an art consulting company, Spectrum Cultural SL. The name had been Luna's idea, with a touch of irony. Specters are invisible, but always present, she had explained. Alan used his savings to rent the small office and buy basic equipment. 2 computers, a printer, some second-hand furniture. Everything discreet, nothing ostentatious. The idea is to appear legitimate enough not to arouse suspicion, but small enough to be ignored, Alan said, organizing fake client documents. Luna worked on a digital map, tracking the galleries, foundations, and auctions connected to the Mendes family. Ricardo has 3 art foundations, all registered as non-profit. But look at this, she pointed to the screen. Movements of millions in acquisitions that have never been shown, works that disappear from public records. Classic money laundering, Alan muttered, impressed by the scale. They buy art with dirty money, sell it at private auctions for inflated values. The money comes out clean. Exactly, Luna confirmed. And Clara coordinates everything. She is not just the trophy wife. She is the strategist. It always has been. Alan felt a weight in his chest. He had not really met Clara. He had never seen it completely. We need concrete evidence, internal documents, bank transfers, emails, something irrefutable. Luna turned to him, her face lit up by the computer screen. I know where to get it. Ricardo keeps everything on a private server in the family home, the Mendes mansion, on the outskirts. But it is a fortress. 24-hour security, cameras, alarms. Impossible to invade, Alan concluded. Almost impossible, Luna corrected, a dangerous twinkle in her eye. But I know someone who can help. The reluctant hacker. The someone was a young man named David, a talented hacker Luna had met years ago on an underground forum of digital artists. Now, he worked as a cybersecurity freelancer, living in a tiny apartment filled with screens and cables. "Luna," David greeted cautiously as he opened the door. "You've disappeared. I thought I was dead." "Almost," she replied with a grim smile. "But I'm alive. You need a favor." "Great." David listened to their proposal in silence, his fingers drumming nervously on the table. "Invade the Mendes family's server? Are you crazy? These guys have lawyers who eat hackers for breakfast." "We need the evidence," Luna insisted. "They destroyed my life, David, and they are doing the same with other people. You know me. You know I don't ask for that lightly." David looked at her, then at Alan. "And you? Who is it?" "Someone who was also hurt by them, and that he wants justice." David sighed for a long time. "Justice is expensive, very expensive, and I don't work for free." "How much?" asked Alan directly. 10,000 euros. Half now,
half when I did the files. Alan swallowed. It was almost all he had left, but he looked at Luna, saw the determination in her, and nodded. Done.
The hunt continues.
While Davi worked on breaking the Mendes digital defenses, Clara and Ricardo intensified the search. They placed discreet rewards among their contacts. Information about Alan Vidal or the mystery woman yielded 10,000 euros, no questions asked. At the Mendes mansion, a stately estate overlooking the Mediterranean, Clara paced back and forth in the private library, her cell phone glued to her ear. "I don't care what it costs," she hissed at the head of security. "Find them. Search all the hotels, all the recently rented apartments, all the records. They can't have gone far." Ricardo watched from the leather armchair, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He looked calmer than Clara, but there was tension in his shoulders. "You're obsessed, honey." "Obsessed?" Clara turned to him, her eyes sparkling. "That woman knows our secrets, Ricardo. If she talks, if she can get evidence—" "She has no proof," interrupted Ricardo, but his voice sounded less certain than his words. "We made sure to destroy everything when we were done." "What if we don't destroy it? What if she kept copies? What if she's planning to expose us?" Ricardo took a long sip of the whiskey. "So we need to find her before she acts, and when we do, we need to make sure the problem is solved. Permanently." Clara shuddered when she heard the implication, but she didn't disagree. They had built too much to lose now.
Dangerous proximity. In the small office of Spectrum Cultural, the nights became long. Alan and Luna worked side by side, reviewing documents, building a map of connections, waiting for David to turn over the crucial files. On one of these nights, Luna brought Chinese food from a nearby restaurant. They ate in silence, fatigue weighing on them both. "You never told me," Alan said suddenly. "How was it when Ricardo broke up with you?" Luna stopped eating, forks suspended in the air. For a moment, Alan thought she wouldn't answer, but then she put her fork aside and looked out the window at the city lights. "It was at an exhibition," she said, her voice low. "My first major solo exhibition. I was overjoyed, thinking I had finally arrived. Ricardo was there, smiling, charming. In the middle of the night, he called me to a private corner. I thought it was to congratulate me. But he said he had rethought our future, that I was too talented, too intense for the life he needed to build. He needed a partner, not an artist with ambitions of her own." His voice trembled slightly. "He dumped me there, in my own exhibition, and left. The next day, the critics who had praised me changed their tune. The galleries canceled contracts. It was as if someone had pressed a button and erased my existence." Alan felt a deep anger rise in his chest. "And Clara?" "Clara showed up 3 weeks later, on Ricardo's arm at a public event, smiling perfect, everything I was supposed to be not. And I knew that she had planned it, that she had seen an opportunity and had taken it." "I'm sorry," Alan said genuinely. Luna looked at him, surprised by his sincerity. "Why? You didn't do anything." "Because you didn't deserve this. Nobody deserves it." Something changed in the air between them. Luna held Alan's gaze for a long, vulnerable moment, but then she averted her eyes, but not before Alan saw the glint of suppressed tears.
The first clue. David turned on 3 days later, his voice electric with excitement. "I did it! I joined their server!" Alan and Luna ran to their apartment. On the computer screen, folders and folders of files shone like digital gold. "Bank transactions, contracts, internal emails," David narrated as he clicked. "This here is a gold mine. Look at this. transfers from offshore accounts to the foundation, followed by acquisitions of ghost works. Astronomical values. How much? Asked Alan. In the last 5 years, more than 50 million euros, going through the foundations, washed, and coming out clean. Luna sat down heavily. It's bigger than I imagined. There's more, said David, opening another folder. Emails between Clara and intermediaries. She coordinates everything. Dates, values, even threats to those who question. Look at this one. If the critic keeps asking questions, take care of him, discreetly but firmly, signed by her. Alan felt a chill. Clara was not only an accomplice, she was the architect. Can we use this? Asked Luna, her voice trembling with hope and fear. We can, David confirmed, but you need to be careful. If they find out they've been hacked, they'll erase everything, cover tracks, and you lose your chance. So we need to act fast, Alan said. Make backup copies, give them to the authorities, to the press, to anyone who can use it. Luna nodded, but there was concern in her eyes. And when we do that, Ricardo and Clara will know that it was us, and they won't stop until they find us. So we need to be prepared, Alan said, taking her hand. Together, Luna shook his hand, and for the first time, Alan felt that they weren't just allies, they were something more. The trap.
But the Mendes were not fools. Ricardo had his own cybersecurity experts, and they detected the server intrusion. Not immediately, but fast enough. Someone came in, the IT chief reported to Ricardo in the mansion's control room. He downloaded files, lots of files. Ricardo turned pale. Which files? Financials, emails, everything related to foundations. Clara, next to him, cursed softly. It's her. It has to be Luna. She got a hacker. Can we track them down? Asked Ricardo, his voice harsh. We are trying. Whoever did this is good. He used VPNs, proxies, hid the trail. But no one is perfect. We will find it. And they found it. Or rather, they found Davi. A small mistake, a second of carelessness, and his IP address was exposed. 2 days later, when Alan and Luna visited Davi to pick up the last copies of the files, they found his apartment ransacked. Computers destroyed, cables torn out, and Davi? Davi was missing. No, Luna whispered, her hand shaking. No, no, no. Alan found a message scrawled on the wall with red spray. You are next. They fled the apartment, panic taking over. The Mendes knew. They knew about the hack. They knew about Davi, and they would soon know about them.
Hideout in the mountains. Alan made a quick decision. We need to get out of Barcelona. Now. They took only the essentials and drove into the mountains, to a hut that had belonged to Alan's father, in the Pyrenees. It was isolated, with no recent records of use, the perfect hiding place. The cabin was rustic, cold, but safe. They locked the doors, closed the windows, and for the first time in days, breathed. Luna collapsed into a chair, her head in her hands. David, they took David because of me. No, Alan said firmly, kneeling beside her. Because of the Mendes. They're the monsters here, not you. Luna looked at him, her eyes red. But I brought you to this. You were safe. You had your life, and I destroyed everything. You didn't destroy anything, Alan said, taking her face in his hands. You showed me who Clara really was. It showed me that I was trapped in a false life. And now I'm fighting for something that matters, with someone who matters. Luna froze, her eyes wide. Alan. He didn't let her finish. He kissed her, softly, but intensely, all the tension and fear and pent-up attraction exploding at that moment. Luna replied, her fingers intertwining in his hair, the world outside disappearing for a precious instant. When they parted, they were both out of breath. Luna leaned her forehead against his. "This is crazy. I know, but I don't care. We can die, Alan. The Mendes will not stop, so we will fight to the end, together." Luna smiled, a mixture of sadness and hope.
Love in the hiding place.
The days in the cabin turned into a strange bubble of reality. Outside, the world was dangerous, full of threats. Inside, Alan and Luna found something neither of them expected: love. They spent their mornings planning, reviewing the evidence they had obtained, deciding how and when to exhibit the Mendes. But the nights were theirs. Long conversations by the fireplace, sharing childhood stories, lost dreams, secret fears. "I always wanted to be an architect because my father was," Alan confessed one night, lying on the carpet by the fire. "But sometimes I wonder if I chose this or if it was chosen for me." Luna, lying next to him, turned to face him. "What now? What do you want?" "I want freedom," Alan said, surprised by his own answer. "I want to create without pressure, without expectations, and I want to—" He hesitated, then continued, "I want you." Luna smiled, that rare and genuine smile. "I want that too. But first we need to survive." "We will survive," Alan promised, kissing her again. But reality was never far away. They knew that time was running out. The more they were hidden, the more the Mendes would prepare. They needed to act. Or final shot. "Let's go public," Luna said one morning decisively. "We hand everything over to the press, to the police, to anybody that can investigate. At the same time, a bombardment of information that they cannot contain." Alan agreed. "But we need guarantees. If we just hand it over and disappear, they can bribe, threaten, make the evidence disappear." "We need a lawyer," Luna said. "Someone with a reputation, who is not intimidated by the Mendes." Alan remembered someone. "My former law professor, Teresa Campos. She is fierce, ruthless, and he hates corruption." "Perfect," Luna said. They prepared everything meticulously. Copies of evidence on multiple USB sticks, archived in the cloud with shared access, sent to trusted contacts. A complete, organized, irrefutable dossier. They called Teresa from a disposable phone. She listened to it all in silence, then said in a deep voice, "You're messing with powerful people. Dangerous." "We know," Luna said, "but we need to do it." "Then let's do it right," said Teresa. "Come to my office, tomorrow at noon, and bring it all." But the Mendes had ears everywhere. An informant within Teresa's circle, a bribed assistant, sent a quick message. "Alan Vidal and Luna will be in Campos's office tomorrow at noon." Ricardo smiled coldly when he received the news. "Finally! Clara, prepare the team. Let's finish this." Clara nodded, but there was something in her eyes. Doubt? Fear? She pushed those thoughts away. They had gone too far to retreat now. The next day, Alan and Luna drove back to Barcelona, tense but determined. They arrived in the city center, at the building where Teresa's office was located. They parked on a side street. "Ready?" asked Alan. Luna respiró fundo. Ready. They got out of the car, backpacks with the files on their backs. But before they could take 3 steps, black SUVs blocked both ends of the street. Men in suits stepped out, moving with military precision. "Run!" shouted Alan, but it was too late. They were surrounded. Ricardo and Clara got out of one of the SUVs, walking calmly towards them. Ricardo was impeccable as always. Clara wore sunglasses, her face a mask of coldness. "End of the line," said Ricardo, stopping a few meters away. "Did you really think you could destroy me?" Luna stepped forward, defiant. "It's not a matter of finding it, Ricardo. We already have everything. Their transfers, their crimes, everything." Clara laughed, an icy sound. "And what are they going to do with it? Report us? For whom? The police that is in our pocket? The press that we control?" "You don't control everything," Alan said, his voice firm. "And even if they do, there are people who can't be bought. Teresa Campos is one of them." Ricardo waved, and 2 men grabbed Alan and Luna, immobilizing them. "Teresa Campos will not receive anything," said Ricardo, "because you won't get to it. And as for his proofs, well, accidents happen. Files are lost. Hackers disappear."
An unexpected turnaround.
But then, sirens. Lots of sirens. Police cars appeared from all directions surrounding the SUVs. Police helicopter flying overhead. Megaphones ordering everyone to put their hands on their heads. Ricardo and Clara were paralyzed, confusion and panic spreading across their faces. Teresa Campos got out of one of the police cars, accompanied by detectives and federal agents. "Ricardo Mendes, Clara Mendes, you are in prison for money laundering, criminal association, and attempted murder." "That's ridiculous," shouted Clara, but her voice sounded desperate. Teresa approached Alan and Luna, who were immediately released. "Are you okay?" How did you know?" asked Luna, astonished. Teresa smiled. "You weren't the only smart ones. When I received the dossier that they sent by email last night, I analyzed everything. And when you called, I realized you were in danger. I alerted the federal authorities, who were already investigating the Mendeses for other crimes. His tests were the missing piece. And I put a surveillance team in this area, in case there were problems." Alan laughed, incredulous and relieved. "You saved us." "You saved yourselves," Teresa corrected. "I just helped close the trap." Ricardo and Clara were handcuffed, their faces transformed into masks of hatred and defeat. When they passed Luna, Clara spat. "This is not over. We have resources, lawyers. Let's get out of it." Luna looked at her calm and firm. "Maybe, but now the world knows who you really are. And that, Clara, you can't buy back."
Days later, breathing again.
A week later, Alan and Luna were sitting in a small cafe by the sea in a quiet neighborhood of Barcelona. The news about the arrest of the Mendes dominated the newspapers. The scandal grew every day, revealing a network of corruption much larger than they imagined. "David has reappeared," Luna said, reading a message on her cell phone. "He was hiding, afraid, but now that the Mendes have been arrested, he has given testimony to the police." "Great," Alan said, taking a sip of coffee. "He deserves to be safe." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the waves crash on the shore. Survived. Won. But at what cost? "What do we do now?" asked Luna, breaking the silence. Alan looked at her, that extraordinary woman who had come into her life like a storm and completely transformed her. "I don't know. And for the first time, it doesn't scare me." Luna smiled. "Spectrum Cultural still exists. We can make it real. A real consultancy, helping artists who were harmed, exposed to schemes like the Mendes." "Justice and art," Alan said, liking the idea. I'd love that. What about us? Asked Luna vulnerably. What are we? Alan took her hand on the table. We are two survivors who have found something precious in the midst of the chaos. Love, partnership, future. Luna shook his hand. Future. I like that.
The open outcome.
But the world is not so simple. 3 days later, Luna received a call from an unknown number. She answered, hesitantly. Luna. The voice was muffled, unrecognizable. Do you think you've won? Who is it? She asked, her blood running cold. A friend of the Mendes. One of many. Ricardo and Clara may be in prison, but the family is big, Luna. And you have made many enemies. What do you want? Just to warn. The war is not over. You just won the first battle. Take care of yourselves, because we are watching. The call was severed. Luna stood still, the phone shaking in her hand. Alan noticed immediately. What's wrong? She told him. Alan's face hardened. So it's not over. No, Luna said, her voice steady despite her fear. But we've faced it before, and we will face it again, together. Alan nodded. Together. They looked.
Continue. Coming soon. Season 4.
Thanks for watching.